Mindsetters, and welcome to Mindset Learn Extra, the home of the brain. This educational show is proudly sponsored by Macmillan, where you learn more, learn extra. Now, you tuned in this hour with myself, Tebogo Precious, and Mr. Ashraf Patel. How are you doing today?
Fine, thanks, and you, Tebogo?
I'm well, thank you. Now, we'll be handling accounting grade 12. Would you kindly let our Mindsetters know what topic we'll be handling?
Yes, guys, you remember the favorite section? Yes, cash flow statements and the analysis and interpretation of ratios.
Wow, sounds very, very, very exciting. Now, I'm going to let you go prepare a little bit
Thank
while
you.
I chat to the Mindsetters.
Thank you, Tebogo.
Mindsetters, you know what to do. Facebook.com/learn extra or mindsetlearn/live. Now, this is where you post all your questions, your queries, and your comments. Let us know what you think about today's show, the ratios and cash flow statements. Now, I'm going to hand it over to Ashraf to carry on with the show in accounting. Ashraf, over to you.
Thank you very much. Well, grade 12s, if you recall from last week's lesson, we did an explanation on the cash flow statement, and what we're going to be doing this week is we're going to actually do a question with you guys. So the accounting boffins out there, make sure that, you know what I always say, that your mind, your body, and your soul concentrate and make sure you understand. Let's get right into the question. The information given was extracted from the financial statements of Manchester Limited, distributors of exquisite perfumes. What are we required to do? We have to prepare the note for the reconciliation between profit before taxation and cash generated from operations. Now, immediately, you know, note number one, there are immediate, what goes through your mind is that I need to add back two things. And what are those two things that I need to add back? Remember, here goes. I have to add back, I've got my adjustments, and in this particular instance, if you look at this question here, your depreciation is given to you, so the depreciation is a given figure, as well as my interest on borrowed funds, that's also a given figure. In this particular example, in this particular question, what the examiners have done is they've given you the total of your operating profit before changes in working capital. So that's a given. You were not expected to calculate that. However, you are now expected to work out your changes in working capital. And immediately, guys, what are the three things that we're going to be looking for? Number one, the first thing that we look for is inventories. Okay, so let's go to our question and see. Let's get to the question and let's get to the information. Let's find our information for that particular question, and it should be here. Okay, it's still part of the question. Let's find the detail. There's still question, and here's my information. Okay, got it. Took some time, but we got there. Right, now looking at my inventories, the first thing that you do when you are presented with information in tabular form, remember the 2 years? Tebogo, you remember the love arrow? Mm-hmm. Yes. So therefore, guys, this is my love arrow indicating to me the beginning of the year and the end of the year. So here goes. There's the beginning of the year and there's the end of my financial period. Okay, looking at inventories. What happened to my inventories? Clearly you can see my inventories were 110,250. There's the figure. And now my inventories have moved up to 251,250. Immediately you can see there has been an increase in my inventories. Okay, so when that happens, what's my rule? Do you remember your acronyms? Do you remember the French we taught you last week? Here goes. A, I, U, L, I, G. Okay? And the second one, Edgladu. That's right. I told you, don't worry about the pronunciation as long as you understand this acronym. So, inventories is an asset, certainly. What's happening to the asset? It's increasing in value. Therefore, we have utilized cash. Okay, let's go back. You can see that we have utilized the cash, and immediately I say, fine, let's do the calculation there. My calculation would be let's keep our calculator there in front of us. Right, here goes. So we say 251, 250 minus 110, 250, and your answer is 141,000. This means that there has been an increase in inventories of 141,000. Okie dokie, let's go there. And immediately what we do is, in our answer book, we say inventories there's my inventories, and the answer here is 141,000, and because it was an asset increasing in value, it meant that that figure had to appear in a bracket to indicate a utilization of funds. Okie dokie. Next one. The next item that I look at is my, watch this one very closely. They tell you in the question that it is trade debtors. Right. Now notice in this particular question here, notice that your SARS income tax is not part of your trade debtors or your trade and other receivables. In other words, they've given it to you separately, so you don't have to do the exclusion. All that you do is you look at your trade debtors and you say, fine, my debtors were 76,000 Rand, right? Remember, beginning of the year, they were 76,000 Rand. They are now 60,000 Rand. That means there was a decrease in my debtors from 76,000 to 60,000. And immediately you can see that 76,000 minus 60,000 is equal to 16,000 Rand. This means that 16,000 Rand, immediately I go to my answer book and I insert the figure for trade and other receivables or trade debtors. My answer is 16,000 Rand, and because receivables is an asset and the asset has decreased, once again, what do we know when an asset decreases? When an asset decreases, here goes, remember, when an asset decreases, we are generating cash. In other words, this is now a positive figure. Okay. So, trade and other receivables sorted. The next item that I look at, yes, I'm sure you are screaming out the answers there because you may have done, and I'm sure you've done this question before. The next item we look at is our trade and other payables. Trade and other payables. And remember, what do we look at under trade and other payables? Let's get to the question here again. Remember, when I'm dealing with trade and other payables, What am I looking at? In this particular instance, once again, I want to draw your attention to the following. Watch, your trade creditors are given to you as an individual item. Notice that your shareholders for dividends and your SARS income tax appear as separate items in the balance sheet, indicating to you no need to exclude those two figures. Why? Because they are separate components. Had they been part of trade and other payables as a total, then we would have to apply the rule of exclusion. And we also know why we exclude those two items, because they have notes of their own. Now, looking at trade creditors, what can we see? What happened? At the beginning of my financial year, my trade creditors were 220,475. There's my figure. And at the end of the year, it was 209,945. Clearly, you can see that your creditors decreased, okay? And by how much did they decrease? Immediately we say 220 minus, sorry, wrong figure. Let's just delete that again. 220,475 minus your 209,945, and your answer is 10,530. Okay, 10,530. So, in my answer book, 10,530, 10,530. That's my trade and other payables. What happened to my trade and other payables? They decreased. When a liability decreases in value, what do we know? When a liability decreases in value, it tells me immediately that we have utilized the funds. Remember, when we utilize the funds, the U formation tells you that there must be a bracket there to indicate an outflow of funds. So therefore, 10,530 as a negative. Okay, we've now completed the three components. What do we now do? We now look at the net effect, and obviously on our calculators now, we say 1042,250 minus a negative 141,000, okay, plus 16,000 is equal to that, minus 10,530. And this is equal to 906,720. So let's get the figure once again. 906 720. There goes. You have now completed one component of your question paper already, and that is calculating this one here, the reconciliation between profit before taxation and cash generated from operations. Okay, let's carry on. Now remember, immediately you know that once you've completed that note, you can take a figure and slot it into your cash flow statement, because you have calculated that figure already, right? Remember, what was that figure? Let's pick it up from our calculator. 906 Okay, here it goes. Let's take that figure, 906. Pick up our pen. 906, and let's look at our calculator once again to make sure we got the correct amount. 720. 720. Okay, now that figure is calculated already. What do we now need? We now need our interest paid. Immediately, what are we going to do? Go to our question and look at the information. What do I have here? In my information, I can see that. Here goes. And remember, we said when we're doing the cash flow statement, what are we looking at? We are looking at last year's balance sheet, this year's balance sheet, and this year's income statement. So therefore, guys, extract from my income statement, there's my interest expense that I require. Here goes, interest expense, 164,450. I'm going to need that figure, 164,450. 164 450. Thank you, Tibogo. What would I do without you? Okay, so remember, it is interest paid, and therefore interest paid has to appear in a bracket. Right, now coming to my dividends paid. Okay, let's get right into this question here, because remember, in order to calculate my dividends paid, what do I need? Here goes. I need to open up one account here, and that account is my shareholders for dividends, right? Remember, that is your balance sheet account. And in your balance sheet account, you are going to be given a balance for this particular one. So let's find the balance. There it is. Watch my shareholders for dividends. What do I know? I know that for shareholders for dividends, it will always appear under my current liabilities. And the first item that I have there is my opening balance of 52525. Do you remember the secret? Yes, Ashraf's secret. What did we say? One of the components that you will definitely pay in terms of your shareholders for dividends was last year's final dividend. There goes. There's my last year's final dividend of 52,525. So immediately what I know, I can take that amount, okay, and 52525, 52525, and I also know that this figure here is definitely going to be the amount that I have paid. So there goes, guys. There's my one bank figure, 52525. Okay, immediately I know 52525. There's the one component of the dividend that I have paid. How are we doing?
Very
Time
well, but I
wise?
think it's time for a break now.
Is it time for a break?
Yes.
Okay, guys, don't stray or go away. Stay with Mindset Learn.
Ooh, that was amazing, guys. I don't think how I can beat that slogan. Guys, it is now time for a quick break. We're going to allow you just a few minutes to recollect yourselves, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, Mindsetters. I know you're all excited to get on with the show, and that you guys are having a great time. Don't forget to ask away on Facebook, facebook.com/learnextra or mindsetlearn/live. Your questions and comments are highly valued by us. Now I'm going to hand it over to Ashraf to quickly address one of you guys' questions.
Yes, very interesting, and thank you for asking us this particular question. Yes, you were quite right. Remember, in order to ascertain the net effect of the block yes, a figure of 135,530 would have been in place if you had it put in place in where it says changes in working capital. This particular one here, how do we get the 135,530? It is the net effect of this block here. So yes, what I did prior to this, I had just taken the figure, which was our operating profit before changes in working capital, that's that figure, subtracted the individual figures, and finally arrived at my answer. You will notice that if you take 1042250 and you subtract, because that is a negative 135,530, you would get the same answer of 906720. Thank you for that. Much appreciated. Okay, let's move on with where we were working. Remember, we were busy calculating our dividends paid. Now, coming back to the secret. Do you recall the secret? Ashraf's secret? What was it? Last year's final plus this year's interim. Okay, now, looking at the information, let's go back and see what information do we have. Okay, in terms of our information, we can clearly see we've got last year's final and this year's final as well. Okay, and notice other information. You do remember that whenever you are doing an accounting question, you must look for the information that you require. And what is that information? RTFQ. Read the full question. Okay, what did they tell us? That there was an interim dividend for the year, and that interim dividend was 40 cents per share. Is that what we are looking for? Certainly. We want this year's interim dividend. And now, 2009 is the current year. Last year is 2008. Okay, now going back, let's look at the information that we have. Look at my ordinary share capital. What do you notice? My share capital was 1,050,500. That was my share capital last year. My share capital this year was 2,085,000. So immediately you can see that we sold more shares. However, what was the proviso? What was the proviso? Let's find the proviso. What did they tell us? Additional new shares were issued at a premium halfway through the year on the 31st of August 2008, and these shares did not, here's the secret, these shares did not qualify for an interim dividend. So immediately you know that looking at my ordinary share capital, I can clearly see that I cannot work with this amount here any longer. What do I need to work with? I need to work with this figure, which was prior to me issuing more shares. So immediately I say, fine, if that is the case, take the figure 1,050,500 divided by 5, which was the par value of my shares, and immediately I get a figure of 210,100. What do I do with that figure? I multiply that figure by 4, because that was my interim dividend of 40 cents, to give me a figure of 84040. Okay, 84040. Let's get here. And immediately I say plus 84040. Okay, now I take that figure and I add to it. Do you recall what was my dividend, my final dividend last year? Let's get that figure again. What was it? Here it is, 52525 plus 52525, and my answer is 136565. Okay, so guys, in order to calculate the dividend paid, where's my emphasis? My emphasis is on last year's final and this year's interim dividend. Total 136565. One, 3, 6, 5, 6, 5. Okay, got it. Now we come to our taxation paid. Remember, with the taxation paid, once again, what am I going to do? I'm going to open up an account. Which account? I'm going to open up my SARS income tax. That's right. And in the SARS income tax account, what is my procedure? I always talk about procedure, don't I? Step number 1, what do I look for? I look for my opening balance. Here goes. SARS income tax. Notice that my opening balance in my SARS income tax account is a current liability. Where do I look for this balance? It can appear in two places, two possibilities, either under payables or under receivables. In this particular instance, my opening balance for SARS income tax, 7,750. That's the figure we're looking at there. 7,750. So that is my opening balance. And it was a credit balance of 7,750. There goes. Okay. Step number 2. What do I look at? I look at my closing balance. Once again, look at my closing balance, and what do I find? Notice that my closing balance for SARS income tax is appearing here, 7,500. But where is it appearing? It's appearing under my current assets, indicating to me that it is a debit balance of how much? 7,500. So let's insert, watch. This is important. Because there's a closing balance on the debit side, it has to first feature on the credit side, 7,500, because what's going to happen below your line, when you bring down your balance, you're going to bring down that balance on the debit side. So notice that this balance first appears on the credit side. Okay. So, in terms of procedure, do I have my opening balance? Yes, I do. Do I have my closing balance? Certainly. There are my two balances that I have brought in. Step number 3, procedure. I'm going to look for my income tax for the current year. And going back to my information, let's see, where do I have this information? Here goes. I'm given my net profit before tax. There's my figure, net profit before tax, 844,300. Okay, guys, do you recall from last week's lesson we said, what are the 3 ways in which we're going to get our net profit after tax? In this particular instance, in this particular question, you've got your net profit before tax, and you are told in the question that your income tax rate is 30% of net profit. So, very simple. Immediately we say 844,300, 844,300 times 30%, Mistake
Same.
there. Let's go again. 844 300 times
30%.
30 second function percent equals to, there goes, 253290. Okay. We got it, Tiboko? You got it for me?
Yes.
Thank you. You're a star. What do I do without you? 253290. Okay, let's go here. So that figure is 253290. Got it? Right. What was that? That was my income tax for the current year. So in other words, I now have all my components that I need to calculate my taxation paid. Okay, let's do the taxation paid now. And we got the 253290 on our calculator already, plus 7750 plus 7,500, and my answer is 268,540. 268,540. So this 268,540, guys, this is my taxation that has been paid. Okay, let's slot it in. There goes. Taxation paid, 268,540, was it?
Yes.
Thank you. 268,540. Crazy, what happened there? Let's just sort that out. 540. Got it. Okay. That was my taxation paid. Can I now calculate my cash generated, my cash flow from operating activities? Certainly I can. I have all my components. Let me pick up my calculator and I say, fine, here goes. It's 906,720 minus, remember, a negative 164,450. Yes, and obviously your dividends paid, taxation paid, and interest paid. All of these, in fact, all of these are in brackets, so they need to be subtracted. Let's go back to my calculator. So we got 906,720 minus 164,450 is equal to that, minus 136,565 is equal to that, minus 268,540 is equal to 337,165. Okay, let's slot that figure in now. What was it? 337?
165.
Thank you. 337,165. Okay, that's done with my cash flow from operating activities. Moving on with my cash flow, I now need to look at my cash effects of investing activities. Okay, guys, purchase of fixed assets. Let's look at the information. What am I given? Notice here that it says fixed or tangible assets here, and the important word is it is at carrying value. Do you remember? Not the cost price route, but the garden route. Therefore, the interesting one. Again, what do we know? Don't fear when Ashraf is near. Thank you. And what are we going to do here? We're going to open up an account. We're going to open up the account, and this is the asset now at carrying value. Okay, so I, do we have time to continue or complete this, or should we rather just?
I think we should go to a quick
I
break
think so,
right
because
now.
we need this. They need to be focused around this one. We don't have to break their concentration. So,
Hmm.
guys, take a quick break.
Guys, Mindsetters, I'm looking forward to checking out more of your posts on our Facebook page. In case you're wondering what it is, it's facebook.com/learn extra or mindsetlearn/live. We'll see you guys now. Welcome back, Mindsetters. Now we are busy with accounting, ratios, and cash flow statements. Before we carry on, though, I'd just like to bring to your attention a very important competition for people who believe in themselves. Dream it, do it, and believe it. This is Future Stars Awards that you guys, Mindsetters, can enter on our Facebook page. Just fill in the entry form, and I believe that you guys are meant to actually take part in this competition. Future Stars Awards, it's a very nice competition, you guys, and I think you should just take the time to browse through it and enter the competition. Ashraf, over to you.
Thank you very much. Right, guys, make sure you enter, because yes, you can do it. Okay, coming back to, remember, we want to calculate our tangible assets purchased, and we know that we are given the tangible assets at the carrying value. Okay, guys, carrying value, here goes. Step number 1, proceed here. Opening balance. My opening balance is 2,967,500, so therefore 2,967,500, 2,967,500. Opening balance. Right. Step number 2. What do I look for? My closing balance. And what is my closing balance? Let's find my closing balance here. My closing balance is 3,440,855. 3,440,885. Tibogo, you got that for me?
No, sorry.
Fine. What is it?
300, I think.
Let's get it again. Here goes, guys. 3,440,885. So 3,440, let's go. 3,440.
885.
Thank you. 885. Okay. So I've slotted in my opening balance. I've slotted in my closing balance. Done and dusted. Okay, now what do I look for? Remember, this is at carrying value. And when I work with the carrying value, guys, I need to bring in other components as well. And what is it that I need to bring in? Let's check. Is there something that I require there? Certainly there is. What is it? The depreciation. My depreciation is going to feature in this calculation. And the depreciation figure is 33,500. Therefore, bring in your depreciation, 33,500. Got it? Okay, so you've got the opening balance, you've got the closing balance, you've got your depreciation. What else do you need? Yes, you need your disposal. But what about your disposal? You need your disposal at carrying value. Why? Because everything is at carrying value in this account. Therefore, let's find that information. Okay, sure we're going to find it here? Let's look at the additional information here. Here goes. Fixed assets were sold for 100,000 rand. Fixed assets were sold for 100,000 rand. Cash at carrying value. So I've got the figure. find that page that we're working on. Here goes. R100,000 is my disposal at carrying value. So slot in the R100,000. What is it that you have to remember? That this disposal that appears in this particular calculation will always be at carrying value, because all the information in this account here is at carrying value. Okie dokie, let's do the calculation now. What do we need? Remember, it is 3,440,885 plus 100,000, okay, plus 33,500, and what do we do with it? We say minus, and let us get our balance that we had in this account here. We'll pick it up from here, it's not a problem. 2,967,500 minus 2,967,500. Okay, and that is equal to 606,885. Right, so 606,885, 606,885. Yes, grade 12s, what is that figure there? That figure is the amount of tangible assets that we have purchased. Okay, so $606,885. Let us slot that figure in. 606,885. What is that? That's the value of my tangible assets purchased. Okay, and now, what was my proceed? Remember, in this particular case, the proceed was given to you. What was the value? The value was 100,000. Okay? Now we all know that the investing activities in this particular example had only two components: the purchase of the tangible asset and the proceed of the tangible asset. But there may be something else that could feature here. What is that? That is your fixed deposit, your financial asset. In this particular example, does not feature, but you have to look for that one as well. Right, so now what's the net effect there? Obviously, the net effect is 506,885, and that is a figure in brackets, because a negative 606,885 minus 100,000 will give you your cash flow from investing activities of 506,885. Got that, mindsetters? Brilliant. Okay, moving on. We now need the proceeds of my shares that have been issued. Very simple. Very simple. What are we going to look at? Here it is. Remember, we worked on these figures already. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to use another color for you to show you your comparison is now on this figure here and this figure here. Which are these two figures that I'm referring to? I'm referring to my ordinary share capital. What happened to my ordinary share capital? It increased from 1,050,500 to 2,085,000. However, that's not the only thing that you look at. Watch. Let's first do that calculation. And we say 2085, 123 minus 1050, 500 will give me a figure of 1034,500. Okay, we got that one, Tibogo?
Yes.
1034,500. Thank you. Okay, now under my proceeds of the shares that have been issued, I will say first figure Yes, Tibogo, what was it?
1034,500.
Let me just do that. Let me just get that a little bit. I think that's better. Okay, what was it?
1034
1034
500.
5. Why are you doing this to me? 500. Okay. But that's not the only thing that we look at. Grade 12s, remember, I also have to look at another component. And what is this other component that I have to look at? Yes, watch here. Again, I'm going to use another color just to highlight for you. What is this here? The 268970. Yes, it's my share premium. In other words, notice that I had a 0 share premium last year. That means there was no premium last year. But this year, there's a premium of 268,970. This means that there was a further inflow of funds. How much? 268,970. So therefore, plus
268
268,970. Okay, I now have my proceeds of the shares that have been issued. What do? Add those two components together. It was the 1034,500 plus 268,970. 268,970, and this is equal to 1,303,470. 1,303,470. Let's get that figure in.
303
1,303
470.
47. Is it 470?
70, yes.
Thank you. 470. Okay. So, two components are one, my share capital, and the other is my share premium. Right. Coming to the payment of my long-term loans, very simple comparison. Let me go to my loan and I see what was my loan. My loan was 1,525,000, is now 300,000. Definitely, I repaid the loan. How much did I repay? Obviously, 1,225,000. Why? 1,525,000 minus the 300,000 will give me 1,225,000. So, 1,225,000. Okay. And I can immediately see that I now have to do another calculation because that is a positive and this is a negative. I think we've got our figure on our calculator. Let's check. Yes, we do have minus 1,225,000, and my answer is 78,470. 78,470. Right, guys, what are we going to be doing now? Obviously, you're now going to take the three components. And the three components that you're going to be taking are the following. What are they? You're going to take this 337,165, right? And you're going to take the investing of 506,885, and you're going to take the 78,470, add those three components together, right? And it's going to give you an answer, right? Due to time constraints, I just want to show you something before we conclude. If you take your cash and cash equivalents at the beginning of the year and you slot it in, obviously you do have the question with you, and you slot in your cash and cash equivalents at the end of the year, the operation between these two should give you the answer for your net change in cash and cash equivalents. And when that cash flow statement works out, a brilliant feeling.
Just a quick question, Ashraf.
Yes.
Castro would like to know, are we always given the format for cash flow statements?
Not necessarily. So my advice to you guys is learn the format. If the format comes, well and good, hunky-dory, no problem. If it doesn't appear, guys, then at least you know the format.
Yes.
Guys, a very enjoyable lesson for me, thoroughly enjoyed. To all the matric boffins out there, guys, you know how I sign off. Aim for the moon. And if you don't get there, you're definitely a mindset shining star.
Thank you so much, Ashraf. We've come to the end of the show, guys. Don't forget to keep practicing. Do your homework. It's there to enhance your academic achievement. Practice, 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 and know the formats off by head. I mean, know it like the back of your hand, guys. It's very important. I'm glad you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you guys next time.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.